It's Thursday. It means it's Torah time here at the Nilvah Nexus. Welcome, shalom, shalom, y'all. James the Idol Smasher at gmail.com. Join us on the Nilvah Nexus at Facebook and Google+, and you will get a link to get in here and join us live in the discussion. We have this every Thursday. And Shalom and John are here. Or just Shalom. Rosalie, whose icon says Shalom, and John are here. And we are wrapping up the book of Exodus this week. This is Vayechel, excuse me. And Puduke, or is it, how do you pronounce that? Pekude? Pekude? So that's where we're at. We're starting at chapter 35, and we're going to the end of the book. And Moses erects the tabernacle this week. So I thought we might talk about these houses we have made for God's presence, if you will. I always found it interesting when I hear people tell me that the third temple will not be built with human hands. It's not like an across the board thing, but it's a good number of folks in the Jewish community speak this outright. So we don't have the third temple. We're anticipating it's coming. May it come tomorrow. So I thought I'd take a look at the ones that were made by human hands that we know of, historical, actual events. It's like the Mishkan did just fine. There seemed to be no real issues from the Jordan to David when it comes to the house for the ark, the place for the Shekinah to come. And then David wants to build a proper, permanent house. And Solomon gets to work on that. We have it erected. It's built. It's destroyed. We build another one by a bit more nefarious means, if you will. Certain backers you don't want to have when erecting a temple in the name of God. But some backers were there, and in the end, that temple got destroyed. So we've got a mobile temple, if you will, the Mishkan, the tabernacle, which went with Israel wherever she went, led them, the ark, that worked just fine. What is God trying to tell us by destroying two temples? I understand Israel strays, but when we look back in history now, I'm reading Torah, I'm looking at it, and it seemed like there was never a problem with the Mishkan, and that's our universal, timeless teaching out of the Torah here. The temple was something different a bit. So what could God be telling us with this? So that's my little question for the week. That's my challenge to viewers and you folks here in the Nexus. So there we go.
The body can be destroyed, but the soul cannot.
Yeah, that's true. That makes sense.
You may take our lives, but you cannot take our freedom. I can't really do it. Sorry.
Could we say that God would prefer a mobile place for him to rest?
No.
No.
Because he's restrained himself enough when he was in the temple he was further restrained in the tents.
You know, I don't really know how to answer your question, James. So I'm gonna throw in another question. I wanna make things even more complicated. Is that all right?
Please.
It seems like the purpose of the temple was to sort of make a permanent, unified location for this sort of connection to God to take place. So the Korbanot, to happen at this one particular location. Because I read that when this happened, that you could no longer have private altars. Like people couldn't just open up their own altar. You know what I'm saying? Like it says that, Abraham, Adam had his own altar, and Noah built his own altar, and Abraham built his own altar, and so this is what people did as individuals. But it says that when the temple was built, that there's this sort of this liberal liberty of just building your own altar was sort of now was prohibited. You're no longer to do it. So my question is: are we allowed to go back to having private altars now that we don't have a temple? Is it possible that we can now build like a portable like Mishkan? Like one, and my second question, I guess part of it, part B of the question would be, how come people aren't doing it if you can?
I might possibly have an answer, because God accepts prayer from us likened to the bulls, our offering from our lips. So there would be no need for a temple or an altar.
Right. I mean, that is true that this allegory of these last few parshas of Exodus, Shemot or Shemos, if you pronounce it like an Ashkenazim, is that this is these Mishkan and all these utensils and everything we're talking about, and the goat skins and the menorahs. They all symbolize us as individuals, as human beings. Like we're our body's a temple, and the menorah represents the levels of a neshama that burns, and the fiery shekel that represents the body and the soul, and so you're saying it's just okay now. It's just purely, simply as like I guess the typical rabbinical Judaism answer is that now we sort of replaced the more large, but still though, does it really actually replace the physical actual thing you have to do?
I would say yes.
I mean, yeah.
Because if you look at Aaron's sons who died because they mixed a wrong incense measurement, I'd say our verbal is what is acceptable now, because we should not mix anything badly and present it to God if it's out of the realms of what He has commanded the Kohanim or the Levites or the Israelis to do.
But here's the thing, though. That's a really good question. The answer you brought up. God never really technically ordained the first and second temple to be built, but God does tell us to build a Mishkan in the Torah.
Yep.
That is a biblical commandment, and we're supposed to take biblical commandments absolutely stringently. Apply it absolutely. Go ahead.
Again, like I said, there are no more Kohanim, there are no more Levites. And that was their duties to perform in the temple itself. And if we are to make altars or mock faux temples, that's exactly what we would be doing. And if that was wrong then, it's still wrong now. And if God is accepting our voices and our prayer as the continual offering, then that's the way it should stand until something else has been let known after what the Mashiach says.
Well, actually, there are actually Levites in Cohen. It's the other tribes that don't exist anymore, technically speaking.
But they're not at their stations. And for an individual,
well, that's what I'm saying. Put them to work.
An individual to do so, if say Joe Blow wants to do this, he is neither of those. And that would
well, I mean, to use a phrase that James liked to say, put them to work. Put them to work. People going around claiming they're Cohen, okay, put them to work. Build the Mishkan. Let's see it done.
I was told by
what's your take on this, all James? Go ahead.
Well, Rabbi Dove said that we can build Noahides. A Jew is prohibited from building an altar. From I've got the divine code. I can look in there. They frown on us making offerings. I mean, let's say we build our stone offering out back, and I have a nice chicken, and my neighbor sees me offering a chicken on an altar of stone. I'll have SWAT here, and they'll take my kids and all sorts of nastiness. I'll be on the news, and so they frown against it, especially if we do it wrongly, if we don't do it the right way we're supposed to. But he said that Israel is absolutely prohibited from building an altar, stone or otherwise. And
well, I guess that answers my question. I guess we can build it. I guess we're not allowed to build a Mishkan. I guess portable Mishkan.
You're not allowed to build an altar.
Oh, just the mishbeach? You just can't. You can. Well, I mean, isn't the mishbeach the altar just the part of just the Mishkan in general? I mean, we are allowed to build menorahs. I mean, we have menorahs for Hanukkah. I mean, we have menorahs. I mean, we could build menorahs. We could build altars, but we can't just put them. I guess my question is, you can't put everything together and call it a temple. I guess
the altar, they can't make the stone altars that non-Jew folks are still allowed to use
because they would be made with human hands.
Well, probably he cited the Mishkan, and without the Mishkan, we had the temple. Without the temple, because Israel is so stringently commanded on how it's done, like Mishkan, it's detailed in these two parshas this week. Israel can't make an offering like a Noahide can. There's no commandment that a non-Jew outside of Israel, and our long lost friend over at Being Noahide, Jacob Scarf, he actually went to the land of Israel and offered up a bird, and he was famous. He was famous for it. I didn't even know I knew the guy. I didn't even know that was him until like a year later. But he did that, and it was fine. But he's not Jewish. He's not living there. It was an offering to God, and according to the divine code, you can a non-Jew can still build one, but it's like, don't walk around with tzitzit either. Don't walk around with tefillin. You're not. You don't want to misrepresent. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I honestly, to be honest with you, I don't know much on the topic, so I can't. That's why I'm asking questions. I don't. It's very interesting. I guess it becomes like you were saying. You know what? You kind of explained it kind of rationally there, James. If you are building an altar in your backyard and someone, one of your nosy neighbors sees it. I mean, yeah, of course, you lose your kids, you lose so that makes sense, I guess.
Earlier today, newsman so-and-so was discovered in a satanic offering in his backyard.
Especially those lovely JC followers, they would. It is what it is.
Burn the witch! Burn the witch! Burn the witch! Yeah.
I don't know a lot about it either. The topic, which is why I kind of want to talk about it. I've always been like, you can't go wrong with Torah kind of a guy. It's such a self-contained system. You don't need anything else. And yet, here we live in a world where we've gone past the Mishkan. So yeah, how do we fulfill these mitzvot, if you will? How would the Jews do it? And does it matter to us? Should we look at the Mishkan as we would look at ourselves in relation to the first or second temple? Can we approach it as it can't be really a house for all nations, can it? The Mishkan can't. I can't find anything, and I looked up and I looked through the list and I didn't see anything that mentions Ger with Mishkan. So as far as I'm concerned, this is kind of a Jewish thing.
And at one time, the Ger were allowed to bring sacrifices to the temple, but it still had to go through the Levite and the Kohens as well, and it still had to be done. It still had to be done religiously.
One of the requirements, actually, for a Ger is to actually bring a sacrifice. I mean, if we're referring to a Ger as a convert, I mean, it depends on what your definition is. But one of the requirements of someone converting is a Brit, a mikvah, and the third would be sacrifice.
And right now, getting into Pesach, everybody's trying to get rid of chametz, and they're cashiering everything left and right too. So one of the things I've heard was that when the Mashiach comes and the third temple's built, everyone who's ever converted to Judaism would have to bring a sacrifice in order to actually legitimately be called a full convert. True.
Yep. So I don't know. And then of course, and Rose mentioned, the chametz. We're looking for the. Jesus, people starting that early? Man, we got 3 more weeks to go. People still fucking looking. I mean, people. It's like Christmas decorations. It's like it gets early and earlier every year.
Well, you got bigger and bigger houses and lax standards. I mean, you got to go through the house with a feather, man. Come on.
Someone at my temple thought it's so funny. He was saying to me, he goes, "Oh, I just go to I don't have to, what I do is I go to Florida for a retreat at a retreat, so I don't have to search for the chametz." And the rabbi goes, "No, absolutely not. You still have to search for the chametz." Yes.
That's right.
And the guy's been doing this for like 30 years, and he doesn't even know he's been violating Torah. I mean, it's so funny that people think they can find loopholes like that,
Yeah, you got to give it all away or sell it.
You got to sell it. You got to you got to burn it.
Give it away. Yeah, exactly. And like I said,
burn it, sell it, give it away. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you still got some old ultra timers there. I mean, they're going through the house with a damn feather. Okay. It's like today's vacuum cleaners, with HEPA filters and all that. It wouldn't be good enough. You still got to go through with a feather. And then you have all your cashiering, and you have to get rid of what isn't cashired out of the house and put it somewhere else, or again, sell it, and it takes time to do that kind of stuff. Like I said,
Pesach.
Yeah.
Pesach, the holiday where even kosher isn't kosher.
There you go. Yep.
And you think that's a joke. And if you think that's a joke, people that are watching the broadcast, that is not a joke. You legitimately cannot use anything you use all year. You can't use the same pots. You can't use the same plates. You can't use anything. Everything must be kosher. You literally need an entire kitchen put away, stored somewhere just for these 8 days.
Yep, and you have to aluminum foil things and store it. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a pain. To be honest with you, it breaks my fucking balls because it's just so much to do. It's so much to do. Absolutely, it's just a little crazy. It's crazy. But I get it. I mean, you want to be strict. You want to, the Torah does tell us that it can't even be in your possession. Can't have any sort of leavened bread. So
Nope.
you got to take it serious.
Nothing in the freezers or the pantries. Yep.
Go ahead, James. What are you gonna say?
I was saying I should go up to the Chabad house and offer to be the Pesach goy.
There you go.
Take all the bread and stuff they don't want.
Yeah, I wonder how good a business can do just to buy like a storefront just for 1 week and just sell kosher for Pesach goods. Like how profitable it would be. I wonder how you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. Probably be good. You probably make a good penny.
Well, I think
it kind of sucks. Us Jews, we live off of bagels. I mean, all these bagel places are going to be closed down for the week. I feel bad.
All the matzah makers. Well, not necessarily. They not necessarily, because I think there's something in the statutes that if you have a business, it has to be run by anybody other than Jews, and you have to kind of like lease it to them during that time, like a buy lease back or something like that.
You can have a partner. You can you can have a non-Jewish partner. Yeah.
That way, you know that.
That's how they get around the loophole. That's how they get around working on Shabbos too. Like technically, you're not supposed to have a business open on Shabbos.
Right.
But if you have a goy employee that can manage the store, that's like a loophole.
Yeah. But it's like just think about them poor guys over in Israel making the matzahs.
Yeah.
There's a racket.
So if I were to use the ger term as in like the friendly stranger sojourner, I still can't find a connection to the Mishkan. It was after his circumcision when Yisro was able to bring a peace offering as well as an elevation offering. And they say that the Stam Noachai, the bare bones minimum, can't make anything other than an elevation offering. In other words, you burn the whole thing up. Meal offerings can only be brought by a Jew, an Israelite, a full-blown Israelite, one of the three holy houses. You can't the peace offering. I think there's even a restriction there. But yet Jethro brought more than an elevation offering.
It goes into the debate about who Jethro was. I mean, it's obviously clear that Jethro was 100%. I mean, for the people who want to say that Jethro never converted, or it wasn't a full, or he converted but he was only a ger, or whatever the argument is, these wonderful days that we have to deal with, it's just so silly. I think it was pretty clear what I read a couple of weeks ago about Jethro, that he did everything he needed to do to be one of the, as they say, quote, a member of the tribe, unquote. So
it took him a while to accept that, didn't it? Like 2 years later, and he was still thinking of going back to Midian. Moses was like, no, you come with us and you'll be a part of us. He offered him like land. He offered him like a settlement in the land. And he didn't have a tribe or nothing,
I think Jethro understood that he had a bigger, important mission than to settle in Israel. I think he understood that there are lost souls out there that he needed to find to bring them back to the campments, to the Israel, and that was more important.
I agree.
I think that's pretty clear that what that was his thinking.
I agree. Moses was on a different level anyway than the rest of the tribes. And maybe Jethro figured, okay, I'm here. I know what's going on here. You need to do what you're doing up there, because what happens up there is not necessarily what happens down here. And he didn't want to get him crossed.
Yeah, I mean, he could have just retired, right? Sort of, quote unquote, retire, hang up the boots. He finally realized, after, studying every religion and coming to realization that we're all false and only, whatever you want to call it is true. Torah is true, Judaism, whatever, Hebrew Israelitism. And, he could have did that, right? And it would have been happily ever after. But no, for him, it was, what I had, some people, they have the mentality, I think, when they find something true. I have this mentality. I realized this. Whenever when I learn something and it's powerful and it's so profound, it like stuns me. I have to make a YouTube video on it. I have to tell people, I have to say, you know what? I learned this today, and I talk to people in my real life. I talk to people at school. I learned this today. What do you think? And blah blah blah. And I just can't keep it to myself. I have to share it. And
Right.
Jethro seems like he was one of those people.
Yeah.
Just being a Gesadik wasn't just good. It wasn't just good enough.
Well, I mean, everybody knew everything back then, what was going on, and that people don't understand that today. I mean, everybody knew what everybody was doing, and the thing is that they knew what their part to play was in everything else. Nothing was hidden from them, and Jethro was just doing his thing.
Yeah, I mean that says something to him, right? I mean, if the Torah says that all the nations knew of the miracles, I mean that's literally what the Torah says. All the nations knew about the splitting of the Red Sea. Every nation knew about the giving of the Torah, right? But only those. It's like the saying, let him who have ears hear, and let him who have eyes see. Only those who really want it, and that speaks to Jethro for him to know every religion, to know everything, and to actually say, what, the Lord is one, Torah is emet. That's power. That's profound. That's it. That's the answer. That's the truth. I mean, anyone to say otherwise, to say Jethro was something other than someone who believed in Torah 100%, it's just silly. It's just silly.
Well, before he did any offerings, before he circumcised, God accepted him as a convert. Remember that midrash?
Yes.
Right. I mean, it's you know what? It's so funny. It's like God. It's so funny how it says Moses rejected Jethro. It says that Moses didn't. Isn't that what we read? That Jethro came. He sent letters to the camp saying that he wanted to convert to Judaism, whatever that means. And Moses rejected it. And then it says that God rebuked Moses. He rebuked him. How dare you deny him conversion? How dare you? What I mean? It's like, no, he's coming. You're going to meet him. Not only are you going to meet him, you're going to accept him. It's it. And then it's like, then once you're accepted, then you can worry about everything else. I mean, it's so funny. Asher Mazer was here last week, and Rabbi, I love that Rabbi. He's so funny, and he's always he always brings it up. You accept the convert, and then you teach him the law. It's like, it seems like that's pretty much. I don't know. I guess it's just. I guess it's just a thing we do, is that we put you through we'll put the convert through the ringer first. We do the opposite. We don't accept him and then teach him. We teach him and then accept him.
you bring up something powerful. That really fits in with Isaiah 56. In there, he talks about, well, he mentions the Ger in like 14, way before. The Ger goes with Israel and helps him build the temple, however, or helps him settle when Mashiach comes. There will be those who come. But he specifically mentions Nokri and the eunuch. Why, of all people, that would stand out from the page? Eunuch. I never would have thought of that. Was upside the head. I did not expect that. That's someone who can't ever be circumcised. And even he is welcome to bring offerings. And we have this separatist mentality that we're taught about the Mishkan, the temple. If it's a house for all nations, everybody comes. Are they all? Can none of them offer a meal to the Levites and to the Cohen who work their tuchus off, handling these oxen and sheep? And it's a dirty job, really. I know they're good at it. I'm not saying they're not tidy, but that's a messy, hard job. Can we not offer a meal to these guys? Is a feast peace offering prohibited unless you're born of a Jewish mother? If Ger is truly a convert, if it goes as deep as the soul and not just a piece of paper, that what I'm getting is that a teaching in Torah is saying that all are welcome to share his presence to some extent. Am I wrong in that? That's powerful. And if people only knew. I don't see any restrictions from a non-Jew and the Mishkan, and they were around, especially when they go into Canaan and take, slaves and win people over. And I don't see any restriction for the non-Jew. That's why I mentioned Ger. They said you can't. They said a Nokri can't. Someone foreign, this would be at the Mishkan. But that restriction will be lifted in the future. I found that interesting too. Something different between the temples constructed by men and the temple to come.
So you're saying that Isaiah mentions here that the third temple, that even like people that normally technically according to Torah wouldn't be able to bring sacrifices would be able to bring sacrifices?
Yeah, I'm getting it out. I couldn't say that here.
Because maybe I mean the way I have to do a little study on it. I don't really. This is just off of my top of my head. Wouldn't it be just because simply the earth will, the Lord will, the knowledge of the Lord will cover the earth as the waters cover the ocean bed? I mean, if that's the case, then there aren't those who I don't know how to say this. We'll all be this. I mean, and not to say we'll all be the same thing, but we'll all be sort of there wouldn't be strangers, there wouldn't be foreigners, there wouldn't be divisions. I don't know.
In Isaiah it says 56:3, neither let the alien that have joined himself to the Lord speak, saying, the Lord will surely separate me from his people. Neither let the eunuch say, behold, I am a dry tree. For thus saith the Lord concerning the eunuchs that keep my Sabbaths, and choose the things that please me, and hold fast to my covenant, even unto them I will give my house, and within my walls a monument and a memorial better than sons and daughters. I will give them an everlasting memorial that shall not be cut off. Pun or no pun?
That's powerful.
You decide.
That's a powerful statement. I mean, it's just an absolutely profound, powerful statement. It shows the beauty and the power of God, of our God. I mean, the fact that He could give something greater than. I mean, He's saying to the eunuch, "Oh, okay, you think children is great? I'll give you something great. I'll give you a monument." I mean, think about like how powerful our God is. It says that Abraham and Sarah was barren; she couldn't have children, right? And oh yeah, you think you can't have children? Okay, I'll show you. I'll give you as many children as you want. I mean, this is how our God works. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is just how powerful it is. I mean, it's just beautiful. It's just the most beautiful thing ever.
It's for a non-Jew who can't convert. Little things like that mean the world. Because a lot of...
I'm sorry, go ahead. What were you saying?
The passage from Isaiah and the attitude that, yeah, even the ger should bring an offering, especially if he's going to go Pesach. I mean, his sons all bring offerings. And that I notice no restriction in the Mishkan. And yet here in the modern world, we are sort of kind of taught there is this definite difference, and we can do this and you can't do that. And when there's a vetting system, I understand, I'm not knocking it, but for folks who've been kind of into this for a while, it warms my heart that even my sorry ass is welcome, will be welcome. That's big. There's so many restrictions, and I'm not knocking anything, but there seems to be a detachment that's natural among a lot of non-Jewish, God-loving folks, or at least keepers of the seven, that they have to be away. We're not Jewish, so we don't go there. We don't think about the Mishkan. We don't think about the third temple. We're not concerned with that. That's not all. We have to do is keep our 7 laws and not worry about offering anything to God. Having a relationship that intimate where you could be offering something that is accepted by God. That it's such a dichotomy, and it warms my heart when I hear that even folks who can't convert but are dedicated might just be welcome there, and maybe have always had a place in the Torah to offer to God in that way, rather than needing a stone altar outside of town. I brought this up in one of the groups on Facebook was, being a Noahide, would you find it acceptable to build a stone altar outside the temple in Jerusalem and make an offering? And a lot of these learned Noahide folks like, oh, absolutely, yes, that's acceptable. And that blew my mind. Of all places on this great big world we can be to make an offering, we're there at the temple, and you would find it perfectly acceptable to build your own little personal altar outside and offer on. I found that, I was dumbfounded. I still don't know how to think of that. What say you? Is it crazy or what?
Yeah, sure. It's crazy. I mean, I don't know how to give you a real correct answer. I mean, it's just is that actually how it is? I mean, can that actually be done, or are they just pulling our leg?
They were pretty serious. I think they were. It was Andy, I think, liked the post, and David Dryden and all them. Oh yeah, perfectly acceptable.
So there are actually people out there that think that they could do that sort of thing if they wanted, if they could. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, yeah, go good. I mean, good luck. Mazel tov, I guess. If they could pull it off, go ahead.
What do you think, Rose? I would be more concerned about the repercussions, and I would be more wary of doing what the majority says.
I mean, shoot. I mean, if Muslims can play soccer on the Temple Mount, I mean, surely you could do something as holy as that.
If Muslims get soccer, I think we Celts ought to get baseball.
There you go.
That's funny. Yeah.
It's only funny.
But then again, who knows what the repercussions of them doing that act is going to bring upon them, though, down the road. That's what I would be, like I said, I would be very hesitant personally to do anything that I would feel would be not somewhat sacrilegious isn't the right word, but disrespectful of that area.
Yeah, it was a hypothetical I brought up, but the mindset that we can be in the holy city next to the holy temple and set up our own offering because I'm proudly a non-Jew. The mindset.
I have a comment for later, but I'm not going to make it on.
You're not?
Mm-mm.
Oh. Well, now I am depressed.
Well, no, it would be a goodie, so I'm not saying it, but it's a respect issue.
Gotcha.
And I'm trying to be respectful of anybody that watches this.
If you offend someone, it's all right. Go ahead. Just listen. I if I censored myself every time I spoke,
No, you don't want to step on any toes that you don't need to step on.
I got you. I'm messing with you.
I know you are.
I just to go back to what James was saying. I think it's just very powerful that about that verse in the from what is it Isaiah
56.
Okay, Isaiah 56. So it shows just the capability of the unlimited God of who Hashem is, really. That even a eunuch he will give monuments to. You know what I mean? It's just I'm still a little blown back by it.
And I thought for a couple of years, I never touched on it. I just kind of ignored it. And being my Rabbi Katz, he brought that up in a few classes, or not the eunuch thing, but other things, and in Isaiah. And I went back and looked at it, and eunuch of all, and I had to think. And I thought, oh, the sign of the covenant. Under any circumstance, could never.
So what exactly is a eunuch, just for definition purposes, like for people who are watching?
A castrated male.
So basically, they of someone who has a vasectomy, basically, right?
No, vasectomy, the whole thing's gone.
No.
The whole thing gets snipped off.
Yes. Yep.
Just the what about the
there would be no means of emitting seed.
The organ.
So good old the family jewels are going too, or what about the shaft?
Correct.
Yep.
The shaft can stay, but the family jewels, no.
Oh, okay.
Eunuch, definitely the whole thing goes. The whole thing. No, it's like you never experienced.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. So.
I mean, I'm like a broken record. I like bring up this like every week on this show, but like it says in the Midrash that when Abraham first came to God, he was Abram, without the hay, right? Back in those days, back when he was like that, and he asked God, I look into my mazel and I see that I have no name, I have no wife, I have no children, I have no inheritance, but yet I'm promised all these things. And so God says to Abraham, look, you're only seeing reality from your perspective. Let me show you what I see. And so it says that God took Abraham above the stars. And then it said, not only will you have a name, but your name will be great. He changed his name from Avram to Avraham. Right? He gave him a hey, made it great. Not only give him a name, but made it great. Not only do you have a wife, but he gave him a princess, Sarah, the princess of the most beautiful woman that ever existed. So not only did he give him a wife, he gave him a princess. Not only did he have children, he was a father of many nations. Not only did he have an inheritance with many wealthy, he was a wealthy man with sheep, a lot of sheep and stuff. He gave him the land of Israel as an inheritance. So it just goes to show that God not only gives you blessings, but he overflows the blessings. He doesn't stop. He just pours out the blessings for you. And that's just what this Isaiah 56 tells us. It's just reiterating the exact same thing that Torah has been telling us all along, that God not only will he bless us, but he will just overflow our blessings constantly, where he will make a man who cannot produce children and give him monuments. I mean, it's just another way of saying, an inheritance or children or however you want to put it. Basically, he's making you Abraham. He has that ability to make a tree that cannot produce fruit and produce fruit. Not only fruit, but like the greatest tasting fruit that you will ever have, like just mouth-watering, juicy fruit. You get what I'm saying? I mean, that's the power of God.
It always goes back to that. God loves you more than you ever will love yourself. We feel detached, maybe we were detached. I know a lot of the world is detached itself in many ways. But the God's always there. Okay, one thing I also wanted to bring up, it was an experience I had. I haven't looked into this enough. I haven't read Chaim Chlorfein's book. I'm not really a big fan of the Temple Institute. But I'm watching this video, and it seemed kosher.
Rabbi, I actually really like the Temple Institute. I think Rabbi Chaim Richman is a very was I'm sorry?
Yeah, I was just saying his name.
Yeah, Chaim Richman. He's very good. I think he has a unique take on Parsha on the weekly Parsha that's very. Go ahead. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead. Finish what you were going to say.
I don't know all that they're doing about the temple, but I'm watching this video, and they're talking about that the Temple Mound that we think is the Temple Mound might not be the real Temple Mound.
Oh, I've heard that, yeah.
Parking lot, and that it's actually just a little ways west or
right.
something like that, southwest or something like that. And then I'm watching it, and about 15 minutes into this, it comes out that it's a messy production. Have you heard any talk like this?
There was actually a guy here at Chabad that actually gave a lecture on that, how that the Temple Mount was actually might be at a different location than we think. I don't really know too much about it. They found columns, pillars that hold up what is it called, the foray, whatever, I don't know the terms. And it fell, it rolled, some of these rolled down the hill. And so they, by retracking using computers about how this item would roll and how it would move, they actually decided that it's very clear that maybe the temple where it actually really stood may be at a different location. So there's actually argument. So this is a good. So they use this as an argument how they can get around that situation with the Temple Mount with the Muslims. So you can technically have the mosque there and have the Jewish third temple by it, like next door to it, because technically there's room for it, technically speaking. But that's all I heard. Other than that, I have no idea. I have nothing. I really don't know anything more. Rabbi Gavriel, if he would come in here once in a while on time, he probably knows about this because I've heard him talk about it. But I guess he's taking a week off from the Hangouts, huh?
Well, he's going to be looking for a new job and probably scouting around a place to live and stuff.
Oh wow!
I'm messing around. I know he's busy.
Did not know that.
When he comes in, yeah, they're consolidating the school that he teaches at, moving stuff around.
It's still attacking.
Hello, David.
Well, hey, David. Long time no see.
Speaking of David, here's David. Is this King David or is this the normal David?
Well, I have a friend who seems to think that that there's some cosmic connection between us, and that his name is Daniel. He seems to think he's the prophet Daniel reincarnated, and I'm King David reincarnated. It's a half joke. I think he half believes it and half thinks it's funny.
I think you have to get this guy in the Hangout half the time one day soon. He seems like a nice guy.
He's awesome. He's my best friend.
How's everything going, David?
It's been about a year since I've been in chat, huh?
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Long time no see, man. What's going on?
Loud. I'm going to mute my microphone. They're being loud.
I hear the Rugrats in the background, man.
I think that's kind of nice because it seems like James had his kids running around, and I've got my granddaughter and her friend running around. So maybe there's just something in the air for kids to be running around tonight.
Amen. I would say if I didn't hear kids running around, I would suspect there's a problem. You know, I mean, hearing kids is a positive thing. You know what, David? Leave your mic open. Let's hear those Rugrats. I don't mind. You know, I went to a court meeting because they want to build a temple. They want to build they want to build a community center. My shul over on their property, over by the highway, whatever. And one of the neighbors were complaining, "Oh, I don't want the town to allow them to build because I don't want to hear children." And I'm thinking to myself, this is his excuse? Is God forbid you hear children? Oy vey. I mean, it's just so sad that we live in a world where like people just like hate children. I guess they hate life. I guess this guy thought we should just abort the children instead, I suppose.
Yes, you're right. They hate children. I think it's weird. Nicholas, that's okay.
At first, you would think that they wouldn't want the Jews in the neighborhood. No, it's not the Jews. It's
right. Well, they played that card already. They played that we don't want the Jews in the neighborhood. That didn't work. So now they went to we don't want to hear the children playing.
That's going to help your case.
One guy says, the guy goes, "Oh, I don't want to pay more tax." One guy, the guy goes, "If they move in, the taxes are going to go up." Welcome back, David.
I muted you because sorry, John was talking. I can't believe that.
Yeah, it's sad that the way people think, it's just, I don't know.
Boy, you're a real jerk, aren't you? Oh, you don't like that? Fine. I hate kids. Thanks for rooting for the species, too. Thanks. John, I don't know if you remember, David is a Torah observant.
A Torah observant Christian, yeah, I know. Me and David go way back to the Reuben's hangouts like 5 years ago.
Yeah, that's how I met y'all, through Reuben.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty interesting combination of Torah observant Christian. That kind of makes sense that, if you would consider yourself a Christian, that you would observe the laws that, even they speak at.
Yeah, honestly, there isn't any other kind of Christian if you actually read through the New Testament.
Now that makes sense to me.
Now we just need Torah observant Muslims. It does sound like a
question for you.
Oh, go ahead.
When you get home from work, do your kids go absolutely berserk at the moment you get home for no apparent reason every time?
Yes.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a conspiracy. They're doing it on purpose. Absolutely.
Quite as exciting.
They're peaceful. They're absolute peaceful angels when you're at work, and then as soon as you get home, they're gonna.
That's what my wife claims. I'm not sure if I believe her. But she frequently claims, "Oh, they were just fine until you got home. I don't know what happened."
They're glad to see Dad, and Dad's presence changes the atmosphere.
They're not doing interacting with me. They're just hitting each other.
Of course they are.
See, when they're home with me, it's very mellow. Everybody's very back in church. Mama gets home. It's time. We're gonna ride everything. We're gonna win everything. We're gonna throw stuff at things. It's carnival time. Mama's home. Every time.
So I wanted to bring this whole discussion actually back to where we actually started, and that this week's Torah portion ends with the book of Exodus ends with, this was all their sojournings. It says that the nation of Israel sojourned through the desert, and the point of the being of that, the way the Torah ends Exodus that way, was the fact that we're all on a mission. It's not that we're just wandering. The difference between a wanderer and someone who sojourns is that a wanderer really has no destination or no real place to be. Right? That's why you wander. But a sojourner does something similar to a wanderer, but the thing he does differently is that he has a destination to go to. And Israel, the purpose of their wandering in the desert wasn't just so that they wandered in the desert, is that their destination was the land flowing with milk and honey, and therefore their stops along the way, these 42 places of locations that we'll eventually read about in the book of Numbers, is that all their places of stops, every time they stopped, they accomplished something. They went to a new level, and therefore, even though it may seem like they fell, right? They complained about not having meat, or they complained that the manna didn't taste the way they did, or they complained that they didn't have fish from Egypt, whatever the case may be. It was really to elevate them to a new level, and that every time they stopped, it might have been seen like, oh, maybe they fell, but the next stop above, they went higher and higher, to eventually they entered into the Holy Land, and they finally got to the destination of where they had to be. That the mission accomplished, so to speak. So I found that very fascinating. That it kind of ties in to what we were saying about Isaiah and the whole thing about everything else. Is that it sort of ties in, I think. I don't know. What do you say? What do you guys think?
Well,
Go
it
ahead,
also takes
James.
time to move millions of people around too. I mean, you can't really do
Right.
that in 1 week.
Right. A lot of people think that things will happen instantaneously. Like it's just supposed to just happen. You know what I mean? It's just supposed to happen. But it's a work in progress.
Exactly. Nobody moves in a day. It gets to the destination in a day, unmove, unpack, resettle. I mean, it's like, come on, common sense. And you got to set your borders, your boundaries, and everything else like that. Yeah.
Rabbi Dove wanted to make it clear to us early on when we read about the different places they journeyed through or to in the 40 years. He says they're gonna come off like every time Israel slipped up, but he wanted to get it through to us that these were lessons. They were lessons. They were that what happened there is supposed to teach us something, rather than looking at it as every time that Israel screws up. Like a lot of people approach it, it should be looked at as a lesson, because every time something is resolved. There's a reason for every destination. There's a reason for their title, their name. It teaches us something. So right on, John, is I guess what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I don't, like you say, it's people sort of use the Bible as sort of like a critique, like, oh, God told us these stories, like, oh, to highlight how, if show us that Israel couldn't keep the Torah, so we need good old JC to help us out. But the fact of the matter is, God gave us these stories to show us that if these great people who were considered perfectly tzaddikim as the generation of the acceptance of the Torah, which were perfect, I mean, they're considered the most perfect generation. If they had, problems, I know how much more so are you going to have problems, that you're just an average person. And that's sort of the message of the Torah, is that, don't look to it as being like, life. I get that way. I get that way when sometimes I see life as like sort of burdensome, or, it's a lot difficult, and it can be. But really, at the end of the day, it's learning, like you said, James. They're learning experiences. It shows us how we can become better people. And we read these stories of what happens in the Torah as sort of examples of how we can do something right, or do what they did, and how they fell, and sort of use it as a tool to know what to do and what not to do. If that makes sense. Go ahead. Oh, I guess we lost David. I don't hear the kids anymore.
Yeah, he left.
He might be back.
He got raptured.
By the hands of toddlers.
He was taken up like Enoch.
We're going to go Enoch now.
Better that than Gremlins.
Let's go. I've never really noticed the power that you were discussing earlier.
How are you?
At where we end this book. This is the first book we have anthropomorphization. That 5 times fast. We're
I heard, yeah.
the long arm of God. We've got mouth to mouth, or we've got this an accessible God. Never happened before. And the way the Parsha ends, it is very powerful.
Sure, William, yeah.
Eavesdrop.
I know. Surprise! Okay.
Okay, I'll help out. No problem tomorrow. I'll help out.
Okay, John's got a helping out tomorrow.
John's going to help out. And if he doesn't help...
Good. Oh, that's not Sal. That's not Sal's son. Some guy that helped out once before. I'm sorry. I'm talking. You know what? I realized my mic was open. I said, screw it. Leave the mic open.
How you doing, guys?
You should have muted me. You should have just muted me. Thank you.
Noah Hunt says hello.
The rabbi was talking to me. He was telling me that the cleaning lady had to do surgery. I don't know if you could hear the whole thing, but yeah, I got work to do tomorrow. Good, Baruch Hashem, it's good. They say in the olden days they say that the Tzaddikim used to clean the temple floors with their beards. That's how devoted they were to the temple. It's a pun because they were always praying and they had the long beards. So every time they prayed, the beard would. Never mind. Forget it. Never mind. Went over everyone's head.
That's beautiful. So shalom to the rabbi.
Yes, shalom.
I'll listen. I have a good friend here. He's sitting next to me. He's listening to me talk Babylon like a maniac. You're a yid. You're allowed in the temple. Someone told him he's not allowed in the temple. Could you imagine that someone told a Jew telling another Jew that they're not allowed in a temple? Have you ever heard anyone hear such a thing?
The only time that would be happening is if he's unclean for some reason.
Someone said to me that you have to be unclean in order not to go in. He's a perfect Jew. What do you mean? He's the most righteous man. You should meet my friend. He knows so much Torah. He should be the one hosting the show, not me. Not Jay. I'm sorry, not James. James, we're gonna fire you, and we're gonna put my friend in charge. Is that all right, James? James is looking at me like I'm joking. I'm trying to get my friend to laugh over here. I'm trying. I'm disrupting the show. Okay, let's move on. Anyway, what was the question? What's going on?
We're coming to the end of Exodus this week, and I'm just looking back fondly at the journey that we take in our weekly study. How far we've come from, being sold into slavery, saving a nation, and the origins of human existence. We've come a long way in this book, and so much being taught. I didn't want it to end. I never do.
I'm sorry. I'm not paying attention. What's going on? What's your question? What's that? What's the statement? I think tonight was a good show, James. It's a great topic. We can talk. I mean, there's just so much to talk about this week's Torah portion, and not only that is. I mean, it's a double hitter, so there's double stuff to talk about. But I mean, it's just so much about how everything it took to create the Mishkan, and all these instruments that went around, utensils or whatever they're called, the menorah and this and the table and that, and everything it took, and how it relates to us as people, and how we're temples and we have a Mishkan, and how we bring our own sacrifices, and we have to slaughter our own animals on our own hearts, and and all et cetera, and it's just it's just endless amounts. And that's what's so great about Torah. We think it's a snooze fest, right? We come in, we open open up the Chumash, and it's like, and then the Lord told Moses to hammer out a menorah made out of gold. You just want to pass out sleeping, right? It's just okay. But really, that's what the beauty of it is that actually deep down inside the commentary is so powerful. It's just absolutely powerful. This week's Torah portion is very powerful, and it's just amazing to me about how it describes. I think it's this week's Torah portion, or maybe it was last week's, where it talks about a holy shekel. I think it's this week, right? The holy shekel. Bring a holy shekel. God told Moses, bring a holy shekel. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe comments that the holy shekel that God showed Moses was a shekel that was on fire. And it represents that the shekel is you, the human body, and then the fire would be your soul, and how you burning with passion to do things for God. That if you do mitzvahs with passion, that it just highlights the mitzvah, that it makes the mitzvah even greater than what it is. So, doing tzedakah, giving someone charity, helping a little woman cross the street, or whatever the case may be, that if you do it with passion, you do it with kavana, genuine intention of trueness to yourself, that it's just you can bring Mashiach today. You can bring I'm looking at you can't see, but I have a picture here of the third temple on my wall here, and then you can bring it today. You can come in from heaven, come flying in, and that's the power that we all have, and that's what it says. You think it's just and the Lord told Moses hammer out, but it's really about. It's so much more powerful than what it really is. That's all I have to say, really. Take it away, James.
How can I follow up against that with more Torah?
Yay!
About individual. I'm sorry, Rosalie. I got to get this out real quick. Hang on. We've got people who were enslaved in Egypt, and from what I've learned from it, they were made to hold candlesticks while Egyptians ate dinner. These weren't the most skilled people, and yet here they are constructing this thing. Was it innate to these people, these families? He's good with the needlework. This one's good with brass. Yada yada. You know what I'm talking about? Did God instill skill in them, or was this their natural ability that God brought out? Have you heard anything in this? Any teaching?
Probably both. Probably both.
The Midrash says that the Egyptians made the Jewish people do like the opposite of what, like they gave men women jobs and women men's jobs. I think that's how the Midrash goes. And so, what was your question? Like, and they did what they were told, like perfectly, right? Isn't that what it says?
That certain people did certain jobs. Some people would be better at building, or brass work. Another would be better at threads and the tapestries for the mission.
Right. Like it says in this week's Torah portion, like what was it? The little boy who was like 13 years old, and he was able to thread the tapestry of the. Go ahead.
Bezalel, was that his name?
Yes.
Yeah. Sounds familiar. That sounds like the name. Yeah.
Rosalie said it's probably both. My question was, were these abilities innate to these people of Israel, and that God brought it out of them, or were these skills endowed by God? I didn't know if you'd heard anything, if there's a midrash.
Well, the reason I said that is because certain tribes had all the tribes had different things that they were known for. Like some were goldsmithers, or they had different jobs, and that's like what their tribe was known for. So that would make sense. But if they hadn't used those skills in a long time, along the lines like John was saying, well, yeah, that's where the both would come in, because their tribe was known for doing those certain things, and God probably had to reboost that in them to make it happen.
Yeah, those are good questions, James. I don't know. I haven't learned anything about like that in particular. They're probably answers, but only just to reiterate what Rosalie said. Yeah, it says that the different tribes were known for different things. Like one tribe was known for like being fishermen, so that was like the tribe of the one was a merchant tribe, one was a warrior tribe. I think Dan was the great warriors or something. Zahula was what, the great merchants, So like each tribe was known for that. Like they had their own shtick. So yeah, I guess that's where it comes from. I guess these people would have I don't know how you even do. I don't know. I mean, the question is, how do you make a menorah out of one piece of gold? How are you supposed to hammer out these 7 branches of the stems, and they're supposed to have flower, these beautiful engravings, and you have to hammer it out. You can't just take one piece of gold and attach it to another piece of gold. It has to come from one piece of gold. How can someone do that?
It was probably put in a form and melted into the form.
No,
to be hammered out would be the final finishing and the finishing of it. Because once it's melted or smelted into place, you break away the form, and then you have what you've got to work with, and then you have to hammer out and get everything in the right proportions.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that might be an answer. That might be the answer of how you do it. I don't know. It's just, it's remarkable. The Torah is beautiful like that. It just doesn't. It tells us this is how it's done, but doesn't exactly tell us how they exactly did it. Just said it was done, and everything is possible, I guess. I have about 5% battery left, so if you see me disappear like a thief in the night, it was the battery that died, and not that I got raptured up to heaven.
Well, go plug in the charger.
Plug in the charger?
Yes.
I won't reach. I wouldn't be able to talk to you on the phone if I plugged it in.
Oh, lovely.
What do you mean? The phone is mobile. You get up and move with it.
But then I basically would have to like sit on the floor where the outlet is. The couch doesn't sit with the outlet. You get what I'm saying? If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But anyway, James, what's the next topic? James, where are we going from here? Where's our next soul journey?
Well, we're going to get into the
Haftara?
The book of the priest. We could do a Haftara.
Yeah, let's do the Haftara.
Which one? Start with
the Chabad Chumash. If you have it, you would tell you what to read. It should say.
We'll do the first one then.
Or someone just do a quick Google search. What Haftara do I read when it's a double Parsha? I'm sure the internet could tell us. Or just do both. Why don't you just do both Haftaras? Why don't we do Haftara for Vachekel? Is that the Torah we're on today? So just do that one and then do the both of them. That sounds good. I don't think we read enough. You know what the thing about it is? We don't read enough of the other books. We do the 5 books of Moses, and then we sort of do a Haftarah that kind of does some of it, but we miss out on a lot. I think we should do more.
The Haftara is Ezekiel 45:16 through 46:18.
There you go. There's your answer. And what's great about the Haftara is that they connect it with the story of this week's Parsha. Like it connects. It makes sense. It's a remarkable how they did that.
Okay. I have First Kings.
First Kings?
In the Gutnick edition, at the end of Vayeko, it's page 1420. It says page 1420, Shekalim, page 1494, Para, page 1500.
Well, there you go. I mean, I'm not going to argue with the book.
Okay. Vayekel. This is First Kings, is what I'm given here. 7:13 through 26. So First Kings. Here we go. Chapter 7. King Shlomo sent and brought... Okay, hang on. Let me get my light. I'm going to pull the headphones off because I have a delay and it's distracting. So I'm just going to read through. Here we go. King Shlomo sent and brought Hiram, the craftsman from Tzor. He was the son of a widow of the tribe of Naphtali, and his father was a resident of Tzor, a coppersmith. Hiram was filled with wisdom and understanding and skilled in doing any work in copper. He came to King Shlomo and did all his work. He sculptured molds for 2 pillars of copper. Each were 18 cubits high and 12 cubits in circumference. He made 2 spheres cast out of copper and put on the top of the pillars. The height of one sphere was 5 cubits, including a 2-cubit base, and the height of the second sphere was 5 cubits, including a 2-cubit base. He made nets resembling interwoven branches and wreaths of chainwork for the spheres which were upon the top of the pillars, 7 for one sphere and 7 for the second sphere. Having completed the molds, he made the pillars. He made 2 rows of copper pomegranates tied together around the nets to cover the sphere that was on top of the first pillar. He did likewise for the second sphere. The spheres that were on top of the pillars were made with a rose-like design on the top 4 cubits. The spheres were not merely on the edge of the 2 pillars, but they also covered the hollow in the middle of the pillars behind the net. There were a total of 200 pomegranates in 2 rows all around, and so too on the second sphere. He erected the pillars in the entrance hall to the sanctuary. He erected the right pillar and called its name Yachin. He erected the left pillar and called its name Boaz. After the pillars were erected, the rose-like design was afflicted on the top of the pillars. The crafting of the pillars was then finished. He made a tank of cast metal for the priests to immerse in, 10 cubits from rim to rim. It was circular all around, and its height was 5 cubits. It was 30 cubits in circumference. Under its rim, let's try this again. This is 24. All its rim, all around, were egg shapes engraved with the face of an ox, surrounding it 10 in a cubit, surrounding the tank around. The egg shapes were cast into 2 rows. They were cast together with the tank when it was cast. The tank stood upon 12 copper oxen. 3 looking toward the north, 3 looking toward the east, 3 looking toward the south, and 3 looking toward the east. The pool was set above upon them, and all their hind prints faced inward. The walls and the rim of the tank were a handbreadth thick, but its rim was thin, like the rim of a cup, decorated with rose flower designs, contained 2,000 bas measures. Craftwork. I'm going to go ahead and go on with the next Haftara. We're going to continue. This is 1 Kings 7:51. And we're going to go through chapter 8:21. So 7 Kings, verse 51. And this is the Ashkenazi community's schedule we're going on here, apparently. And that's okay. We do them all here. All the work that King Shlomo made for the house of God was finished. Shlomo brought in the things which David, his father, had dedicated. He put the silver and the gold and the utensils and the treasures of the house of God. Then Shlomo assembled the elders of Israel and all the heads of the tribes who are the chiefs of the ancestral houses of the people of Israel before King Shlomo in Jerusalem to bring up the ark of the covenant of God from the city of David, which is Zion. All the men of Israel assembled themselves to King Shlomo at the feast in the mouth of Esaim, which is Tishrei, which is the 7th month. All the elders of Israel came, and the priests took up the ark, and they brought up the ark of God, the tent of meeting, and all the holy utensils that were in the tent. The priests and the Levites brought them up. King Shlomo and all the congregation of Israel who were assembled before them were with them before the ark, sacrificing sheep and oxen in such abundance that they could not be counted or numbered. The priests brought in the ark of the covenant of God to its place, to the sanctuary of the house, to the most holy place under the wings of the cherubs. For the cherubs spread out their 2 wings over the place of the ark, and the cherubs covered the ark and its poles above. The poles extended so far that the ends of the poles were seen protruding into the curtain from the sanctuary facing the inner sanctuary, but the poles themselves were not seen outside. They remained there to this day. There was nothing in the ark except the 2 tablets of stone, which Moshe put there at Korev, where God made a covenant with the people of Israel when they came out to the land of Egypt. Then when the priests came out of the holy place, having installed the ark, the smoky cloud filled the house of God. The priests could not stand to perform their service because of the cloud, for the glory of God had filled the house. Then when he saw the cloud, Shlomo said, I know that the divine presence is here, because God said that he would dwell in the thick cloud. Since the divine presence has descended, I am sure that I have indeed built you a house to dwell in, a settled place for you to abide forever. The king turned his face around towards the people and blessed all the congregation of Israel. All the congregation of Israel stood. He said, Blessed be God, Almighty God of Israel, who spoke with his mouth to David, my father, and has fulfilled it with his hand, saying, Since the day when I brought forth my people out of Egypt, I chose no city from all the tribes of Israel in which to build a house that my name might be in there, but I chose David to be over my people Israel. It was the intention of David, my father, to build a house for the sake of God, Almighty God of Israel. God said to David, my father, since it was your intention to build a house for my sake, you have done well by so wishing, since the preparations will be in your house, since the preparations will be in your merit, nevertheless, you shall not build the house, but your son shall come forth from your loins. He shall build the house for my sake. God has performed his word that he spoke, and I have risen in place of David my father, and I sit on the throne of Israel as God promised, and I have built a house for the sake of God, Almighty God of Israel. I have set there a place for the ark where the covenant of God is, which he made with our fathers when he brought them out of the land of Egypt. And thus ends the Haftara.
Amen.
Amen.
You're right. Let's try this.
You know, when I went to I got invited to a bar mitzvah, and I was really taken back at how you've got the cantor up there doing his thing, constant song in prayer. It's prayer just would come out of the congregation at this shul, at this synagogue, and they would pray, and the whole while these very reverent things. Of course, I'm used to the other place, and children would run around freely and play, mindful, respectful. I was just shocked by that. You know, in church, you sit up straight. You don't fall asleep, and you pay attention for 45 minutes. And go into and the kids can be kids, and you can. And it was such a communal thing. It was such a natural. It blew me away.
Well, that's the way the Bible describes it, right? It's supposed to be like family, right? And it's funny because churches are supposedly all about Jesus. What did Jesus say? The disciples came and they're like, get your kids out of here. They're being noisy. He's trying to teach. He's like, well, let the kids come and play. Yeah, different perspective.
It's different.
But I think also it's funny because we've been taking our kids to restaurants since they were babies. So, you know, they're kids. They go crazy once in a while, but they know how to behave themselves because we taught them that by taking them there. So they're in the habit of being quiet when they need to be quiet at a restaurant and not just going nuts. And when they were really little, people sometimes looked at us funny, like, oh, what are you doing with kids here? Well, how do you think they're going to learn if we don't take them?
Testing.
I'm muted. Okay, there we go. I'm talking to nobody. I agree, David.
Because it's dangerous.
Yeah, that's how they learn, right? So if we had a religious service where he's smashing idols, it's awesome.
Nice.
That's right.
Mario.
Yep, Mario's gonna smash all the idols, but he's better than Mario because he's got a beard.
Good.
And he's smashing idols.
Dad.
Guys.
Idols.
The mighty idol smasher. That's correct.
Shark.
Idol smash. Oh, smash.
You gotta make James. You gotta make an app, the Idol Smasher app.
I thought he.
Where you tap the screen. You gotta tap the screen to bop all the idols.
I thought you had one.
Good at making video game stuff, but he could probably work it out.
Yes.
The first, he has to get past chemistry. Once he gets chemistry down, I think my project.
I mean, no.
Any thoughts on the Haftara? Haftaras this evening.
Mario, Dad. Oh. Dad, Mario, Dad. Oh.
I think they both represented Messiah ben Joseph and Messiah ben David.
How do you get there?
Well, the oxen is from.
You can't just give us the answer there, Rose. You have to show your work too. You remember in school where you lose points if you give us you write just the answer, but you don't show how you do it.
Okay, you guys figure it out. I'm getting paged from work. Hold on.
Wait, she's gonna make us figure it out, and then she leaves. Oh, that's funny.
She's gonna have a Twix, chew it over.
Right? Yeah.
If there's anything that we learn is craftsmanship.
Mario.
That went into it, the detail. It kind of gives us a taste, just a little taste. When you look at the reconstructions, the models they've made them in the computer. This was no ordinary structure. This wasn't your average palace or something. There's something very real, appealing, familiar. For me, anyway, very familiar to me. When you get on the computer simulations where you can walk through it and see how it's constructed, it seemed very natural or something familiar. Maybe I was putting more into it. Maybe I was projecting myself onto it. But John got raptured. That's it.
We missed the rapture. We should have gone to church.
Yeah.
Now what are we going to do? The two of us are going to have to go through the tribulation and figure out how to reconnect with God.
No.
Because we missed it.
Thanks, John.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Did you notice Rose dropped out just when you were asking her to show her work for the comment she made? Oh,
I'm actually on call at work, so I have to go and do what they have to do. So, and I'm very happy to do so, to be honest with you. But no, Joseph was known as the oxen or the ox. So where do we see? We see copper images of oxen, right? So there's two Messiahs, Messiah ben David and Messiah ben Joseph. So Messiah ben Joseph is who the Ger and who we are to be known as, and the Messiah ben David would be for the Jews. And I was just pointing that out because Joseph was known as the ox.
Wow. Oh, right over my head. Cool.
So that ties us in as well, because that means that our portion as Ger is represented. Yay.
It's kind of a relief. I saw no restriction about who can go to the Mishkan. Of course, the Levites, the Kohen Gadol, they have their place. I'm not saying this brain. But I saw no prohibition. And I guess I never thought of it. I never looked at it that way. It's good stuff. All right, y'all, I'm going to end the live portion this evening. If you like, hey, like what it says right here. It says a little banner right here. Comment, rate, and subscribe. John made this for us. This is a J-Dub's creation here. I'm hopefully going to keep using it. Of course, Nova Nexus on Google+, Facebook, and James the Idol Smasher at gmail.com if you want to get in touch with me. I have an echo, and it's killing me. thank you for tuning in. And every Thursday, if you want to join in, join up, and you'll get a link, and you can come in and we can talk. We'll be on behalf of Yohanan and David, Rosalie, and myself. Shabbat shalom, y'all.
Shabbat shalom.
Oh,
What?
I'm not going to stop it yet. Is it stopping? Oh, yeah.
Nope.
Here's okay. Everybody
Still
mute
there.
yourselves because we have to do our close. I have a Nexus here with my camera, or Nexus close. So you guys have a fantastic week, and be well.